I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. The Obama administration announces details of a contraception compromise, but is it enough for religious groups? Plus, what's on the agenda for Pope Benedict in Mexico and Cuba? And Brooklyn goes green for a St. Patrick's Day celebration.
You can be an Irish for a day and just enjoy, because this is a great city that we live in. There's all different nationalities, and everyone can be Irish for that day.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Well, the Obama administration is looking for feedback from the public about accommodations to its contraception mandate. On March 16th, the government announced a 90-day comment period, during which time lawmakers will examine ways to implement its preventive services provision in a way that respects religious freedom and ensures that women receive free contraception. While the government, however, not budging on the narrow religious exemption extended to nonprofit organizations that abide by religious tenets. Now, just days before the government announced its latest initiative, Connecticut Bishop William Lawry, chairman of the U.S. Bishops' Ad Hoc Committee on Religious Liberty, said the government's definition of religious institutions that could be exempt from the new federal health care mandate on contraception appears here to stay and non-negotiable. Lawry made the comments following the first meeting with U.S. bishops and White House officials since President Obama announced provisions to the contraceptive mandate. Now, while Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius sees Friday's action as a next step toward a win-win scenario, opponents of the mandate, including the Alliance Defense Fund, disagree, citing a continued violation of religious liberties and constitutional rights. Well, earlier I spoke with Greg Baylor. He's senior counsel for the Alliance Defense Fund. We discussed why he thinks this 90-day comment period is not saying all that much. Now, Greg, the ADF has been very clear in its opinion on this mandate in all its forms so far. You say it violates the right to religious freedom, which is protected throughout federal law. You cite articles of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and the 1st and 14th constitutional amendments. Now, it seems pretty cut and dry, so what is the Obama administration missing?
Well, I think somehow they believe that they're going to prevail in the courts. I think they believe that they're going to get friendly judges who will conclude that somehow the interest that they have in providing contraceptives and abortifacients for free will somehow outweigh the incredible infringement on religious liberty that this mandate puts on many, many religious organizations, the ones that are exempt. So I think they're just hoping, but I wonder if in their heart of hearts and in their realistic side, they're really confident that they're going to prevail in the courts or not. I think they have a tough argument to make.
And I have to ask you the question, does the latest action, which is a second attempt to address the concerns that you have, that our bishop have, do anything to advance the latest version of the proposal towards any mutually acceptable solution?
Well, I don't think that it does. I mean, the document itself that they released on Friday, the 16th of March, doesn't do anything, really. It simply says, we have some ideas, and we want your comments on them. So by itself, it doesn't do anything. Now, the question is, are they going to do something? Are they going to do something concrete? The problem is they're camped on the idea that somehow they're going to get somebody else to pay for contraceptives and abortifacients, somebody besides the employees and students that use them, somebody besides the employers who are sponsoring the health care plans. And, you know, there's a lot of question marks there. Why should insurers pay for these drugs and devices and procedures and counseling out of their own money? Mm-hmm. Why should a third-party administrator of a self-insured plan pay for these? They're just assuming that this money is going to materialize, and I'm not sure they're right about that. And even if it did, at the end of the day, the employee is getting free contraceptives and abortifacients as a consequence of their employment with the religious employer who objects. So even if they are able to come up with the money, it's still the case that the employer would be facilitating and causing, in a sense, the use of these morally problematic drugs and devices.
And Greg, self-insured organizations are really on the line here, and you've taken a stand specifically in support of religious colleges with regard to the mandate. Now, you have a couple of lawsuits on behalf of Protestant colleges I want to mention, but you fully support colleges across the faith-based spectrum. How are those proceedings going, and are the concerns of these colleges indicative of the bigger picture, in your opinion?
Oh, their concerns are absolutely indicative of the concerns that so many religious organizations have. I mean, one of the roots of the problems is the fact that the Obama administration has carved out an excruciatingly narrow religious exemption. They're essentially saying that only churches and houses of worship are exempt from this requirement. Well, the fact of the matter is, as you well know, and your bishop well knows, that many other religious organizations don't want to facilitate the commission of sin, and so they object. So the colleges are just one example of this. There are lots of social service ministries, K through 12 schools, parachurch organizations, addiction treatment centers, gospel rescue missions. They have just as much religious objection to paying for this stuff as houses of worship. So we do fully support religious freedom in this case, whether it's Roman Catholic institutions who have a problem with facilitating the use of contraceptives, or Protestant organizations that may have a more narrow objection to facilitating the use of abortifacients. At the end of the day, it's all about religious freedom. We support that, and this mandate violates it.
Greg, final thought here. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius is calling this the next step in respecting religious freedom while ensuring that women receive free contraception. Has she completely missed the point as well?
I think she has missed the point. I mean, they had to make a choice. They had to make a choice between addressing a non-problem, which is access to contraceptives, and respecting religious freedom. And they thought that addressing this non-problem is more important than our first liberty. That's frankly an outrage. And it makes me wonder, if they can force Catholic organizations to pay for contraception, what's next? Why can't they force religious employers and others with conscientious objections to paying for abortion? I mean, there's really no stopping point for them. So they've taken sides against religious freedom, and I worry about what it portends for the future.
Greg, that said, I suspect we will be back here again speaking to you soon, but as of now, that is the last word. Greg Baylor, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
And stay tuned. There is more currents ahead. Before the Pope's trip to Mexico, the Archdiocese of Mexico City has a gift for the Brooklyn Diocese. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faublas. Coming up later, it's a celebration in Park Slope for St. Patrick's Day. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Well, a Catholic layman has become the first business owner to sue over the federal contraception mandate. The American Center for Law and Justice has filed suit on behalf of Frank O'Brien. He's the owner of a Missouri-based raw materials company. This marks the first time a private business owner has filed suit on the contraception provision. Now, all other legal challenges to the mandate so far have come from religious organizations. O'Brien says the mandate violates his religious beliefs, which define the way his business operates. According to the company's statement of values, our conduct is guided by the Golden Rule and the 10 Commandments. Well, Prison Fellowship founder Charles Colson says his fellow evangelicals have to get on board with Catholics in opposing the mandate. In an email to more than 500,000 people, Colson called the mandate the greatest threat to religious liberty in the history of the country. That's a quote. Colson says he and fellow evangelicals need to take a page from the Roman Catholics. From Cuba, police have removed 13 dissidents who occupied a Catholic church in Havana for 2 days. The protesters settled in one part of the Church of Our Lady of Charity, demanding an audience with Pope Benedict when he visits their country next week. They were removed at the request of Havana's Cardinal Jaime Ortega. In a statement released before the protesters were taken away, the Archdiocese of Havana said that no one has the right to turn churches into political trenches. Well, the Pope will be heading to Mexico before he touches down in Cuba. Currents is currently on the ground in Mexico. Father Jorge Ortiz of St. Joseph Church in Prospect Heights there with NET Program Director Ryan Stewart. They accepted a gift to the Diocese of Brooklyn from the Archdiocese of Mexico City. Monsignor Pedro Agustin Lara, the rector of Mexico City's Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, made the presentation.
Monsignor Pedro Agustin, thank you so much in name of the sales media group of the Diocese of Brooklyn for the presentation of the image of Guadalupe. This will help us to have a standard for this fight against the abortion, against everything that we Christians and our mother goes against it. Thank you so much in the name of the Bishop Di Marcio as well.
Yes, I'm very happy. She is the mother of the life. She is, she appears like is the Virgin Maria, but she's in pregnancy. No, we can see that because here she had the God of the life. I'm very happy because I know that she will protect all Brooklyn, all Diocese of Brooklyn, and she protect all the United States. United States is a big nation, and it's a nation that live in the God of life, and for this reason, all the persons in the United States must defend the life of each person, and especially the person that is more desprotected, that is unprotected. This is the child in the womb of the woman. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
On behalf of DeSales Media Group and the Diocese of Brooklyn, and on behalf of Bishop Di Marcio, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Gracias. Dios les bendiga.
And Currents will bring you reports leading up to and throughout Pope Benedict's trip to Mexico and Cuba. NET will also bring you extensive live coverage of events from both countries. The bishops of Argentina have denounced a decision by their country's Supreme Court to legalize abortion in cases of rape. In the statement, the bishops say, quote, nothing can justify the destruction of an innocent life. Argentina's High Court upheld a lower court ruling allowing abortions without exception to sexual assault victims. Abortion has previously been allowed in Argentina in only 2 other instances: when a woman with mental disorders is sexually assaulted or when the health or life of the mother is at risk. Well, after 10 years as head of the Anglican Communion, Rowan Williams says he will step down as Archbishop of Canterbury at the end of the year. Williams says he will become Master of Magdalene College at Cambridge University beginning in January. During his time as Archbishop of Canterbury, Williams enjoyed a relatively warm relationship with Pope Benedict. He also accepted an invitation to attend the funeral of Pope John Paul II in 2005, becoming the first sitting Archbishop of Canterbury to attend a Pope's funeral. During Williams' tenure, the Church of England dealt with a number of divisive issues, including the acceptance of same-sex marriage and the ordination of women bishops. Now, the issues have caused rifts within the Anglican ranks. Some formed breakaway churches and others converted to Catholicism. An official nominations committee will consider Williams' replacement as Archbishop of Canterbury before Queen Elizabeth formally appoints the successor. Well, Pope Benedict extended his condolences to Coptic Christians on the death of their leader, Pope Shenouda III of Alexandria. Shenouda died Saturday after years of battling diabetes. He was 88 years old. Shenouda led the Coptic Orthodox Church, the largest Christian church in the Middle East, for 38 years. Pope Benedict expressed his most sincere brotherly compassion at the death of Shenouda, recalling the Coptic leader's commitment to Christian unity. Back in 1973, Pope Paul VI and Shenouda signed a historic joint declaration on the understanding of the nature and person of Jesus. The Coptic Church's Holy Council will elect an acting patriarch before a larger vote is taken to elect Shenouda's successor. Well, is reunion on the horizon for the Vatican and a breakaway traditionalist group? Rome Reports has details of the latest meeting between both sides.
Cardinal William Leveda, the head of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith and president of the Pontifical Commission, Ecclesia Dei, has spent 2 hours in negotiations with Bishop Bernard Fillet, the superior of the Lefebvrians. After 7 years of effort, the Vatican has rejected the Lefebvrians' position to rejoining the Catholic Church, calling it insufficient. On September 14th, the Commission Ecclesia Dei delivered the group with a doctrinal preamble in which they stated what was needed in order to return to the Catholic Church. In January of 2012, the Lefebvrians proposed some changes to the Vatican, which were then looked over by the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith and by the Pope himself. The Vatican said the position of Superior Fillet is not enough to overcome the doctrinal problems that are the basis of the fracture between the Holy See and the Society of St. Pius X. Even so, Cardinal Leveda has given a final deadline of 1 month for a definitive response by the Lefebvrians.
And closer to home, St. Patrick's Cathedral will get an extreme makeover to the tune of $177 million. New York Archbishop Cardinal Timothy Dolan made the announcement on Saturday, St. Patrick's Day, saying the cathedral will undergo major renovations, not a cosmetic facelift. Dolan says the renovations are needed for the cathedral's survival. Cardinal Dolan detailed St. Patrick's many problems, including crumbling bricks, broken windows, and aging heating, air conditioning, and plumbing. The New York Archdiocese will work over the next 3 years to raise the money needed for those renovations. And the University of Notre Dame has selected the recently retired president of Catholic Relief Services as this year's Laterre Medal recipient. Ken Hackett stepped down as president of Catholic Relief Services in December after serving in that role for 18 years. He also worked at the organization in other capacities since joining it in 1972. Now, that medal is the oldest and considered the most prestigious Catholic award in the United States. The University of Notre Dame presents it annually to a Catholic for their contributions to arts and sciences and their illustrations of the Church's ideals. Well, stay tuned. There is more currents ahead. Coming up, Pope Benedict gets set for his highly anticipated trip to Latin America. Welcome back. Pope Benedict will be heading to Mexico at the end of the week, the first leg of a journey that will also see him touching down in Cuba. Now, it'll be the first time a pope has visited Cuba since Pope John Paul traveled there in 1998. And as we hear from Rome Reports, Benedict will be a busy man during his time in Latin America.
At 9:30 in the morning, his plane will depart from Rome's Fiumicino Airport. During the 14-hour flight, the Pope will meet with the press to discuss his trip. At 4:30 in the afternoon, he will arrive in León, Mexico, located in the central state of Guanajuato. He will be received by the president, Felipe Calderón, along with a mariachi band. Thousands of people are expected to be lining the road as the Pope will then travel to the residence of the School of Miraflores. I imagine the Mexican people will be out along the streets welcoming the Pope. It will surely be a great part of the first day. On Saturday, the schedule will allow him to recover from jet lag, with no meetings until 6 p.m. At that time, he will visit with the Mexican president and his family in the public building of Casa del Conde Rule. There will then be a meeting with local children in the town's Plaza of Peace. On Sunday, March 25th, the Pope will celebrate Mass in the symbolic Bicentennial Park in the city of León, at the foot of the Cubilete Mountain. In the afternoon, he will meet with the bishops of Mexico and Latin America in the Cathedral of León. All the presidents of the Episcopal Conferences of Latin America are invited as well. Mexican bishops have also invited representatives from Canada and the United States. On Monday, March 26, Benedict XVI will say goodbye to Mexico, departing at 9:30 a.m. for Santiago de Cuba, where he will be welcomed by Raúl Castro, and will then celebrate Mass on the occasion of the 400th anniversary of the island's patron saint, Our Lady of Charity. The Pope will stay at the residence of the shrine's priest, which has been preparing for his visit. On Tuesday the 27th, the Pope will then fly to Havana, where he will meet again with President Raúl Castro and other members of his family, which will likely include his brother Fidel. He will also meet with the bishops of Cuba and then remain that night in the nunciature. On Wednesday the 28th, the Pope will celebrate Mass at the Revolution Square, close to the famous image of Che Guevara. In the afternoon, there will be a farewell ceremony at the airport, before a 12-hour flight back to Rome.
Currents will bring you reports throughout the week leading up to the Pope's departure from Mexico this Friday. We also have reports from Mexico and Cuba during the Pope's trip, and NET will bring you extensive live coverage of events from both countries with exclusive commentary, so be sure to stay with NET for all of that. Stay tuned, there's more Currents ahead. When we return, everyone was Irish for Brooklyn's own St. Patrick's Day Parade.
You can be any nationality you want and any religion you want. The only thing you got to do is just be Irish for that day.
Finally tonight, while it's never too early to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, it's also never too late. One day after the parade on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, it was Brooklyn's turn to hit the streets yesterday here in Windsor Terrace. The celebration got started at Holy Name Church before heading outside for what turned out to be a great day for a parade.
What kept together those struggling Irish immigrants, men and women, was the faith and the values that have characterized the Irish in our city of New York and indeed in our country.
I think it's a great tradition here in Park Slope. The Brooklyn Irish American Parade has been a tradition for many years, and people celebrate St. Patrick's Day, our Irish heritage. Many of the people who built this community were from Ireland, and we want to celebrate St. Patrick, who brought the faith to the Irish people, and then the Irish people who then spread that faith throughout the world. So it's a wonderful day to be Irish and for everyone else in the community.
I know a lot of families that are coming in from outside the city, outside of Brooklyn, and so it's kind of a reunion for a lot of individuals. And I think that adds to the happiness of the occasion.
Before the parade starts, we're going to have a dedication for 9/11 and all the people who perished in that. So it's a little blessing from the bishop.
It's a remembrance. We can never forget those who have preceded us, those who have given their lives, those who have, through their efforts and their struggles, laid the foundation for all of us. So we prayed for those who have died in wars, and we prayed for, especially for those who died on 9/11, that terrible day in the history of New York.
Soldiers are we, whose lives are pledged to Ireland. Some have come.
And there's about 4 or 5 million Irish people back in Ireland itself, maybe about 40 million people of, in America of Irish descent. And it's such a wonderful community and a blessing. I couldn't imagine going through this day without doing it the way we tend to do it.
It's geared towards family, so we have kids, Irish step dancers, bagpipers, marching bands, so everyone's coming out to listen to music and see, people dressed up, and they're great.
Probably a lot of the people who are here know each other, so there is more of a sense of community and a sense of celebration of the tradition.
We love the Irish so much. One parade won't do it. That's why we have two. So they get rehearsed in Manhattan, then they come here and get it right.
You can be any nationality you want and any religion you want. The only thing you got to do is just be Irish for that day.
Well, I'm first-generation American. Both my parents were born in Ireland. They were born in County Kerry. So we still have a lot of family back home. And it's nice to celebrate with family and friends.
We come together thanking God for the blessings that we received, especially the gift of faith, and celebrating our heritage and thanking God for the blessings that are continued to be given to us through our Irish heritage.
And that is all for this edition of Currents. Coming up tomorrow, a musical drama on the Passion of Jesus. Until then, be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.